Good afternoon. My name is Larry Klayman. I'm the founder of both Judicial Watch and now Freedom Watch. I'm a former federal prosecutor, and I actually ran for the U.S. Senate back in 2003, but I decided I was much better on the outside and came out and founded Judicial Watch at that time. In the course of the last 3.5 years, we have been battling James Clapper and the NSA, that's the National Security Agency, as well as the Central Intelligence Agency, because they had been collecting metadata on telephone calls and internet communications on hundreds of millions of American citizens that had nothing to do with committing a crime or collaborating with terrorists or terrorism. This was a massive surveillance program which was revealed by Edward Snowden, who tried to come forward as a whistleblower, but no one would listen to him and he went public. We then brought a lawsuit. I brought one on behalf of myself and on behalf of some clients, because to intercept telephone communications is in fact breaching an attorney-client privilege, and it's also a violation of the Fourth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, which prevents unreasonable searches and seizures. I filed a lawsuit in the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia. It was assigned to Judge Richard J. Leon, a very fine judge there. And over the course of the last 3.5 years, he entered two very important orders, perhaps the biggest victories that I ever had fighting the government, maybe the biggest victories anybody's had, in a case styled Klayman versus Obama, because actually it was President Obama who expanded the authority of James Clapper and the NSA and the CIA to survey hundreds of millions of Americans. And Judge Leon ruled twice that this was unconstitutional under the Fourth Amendment. As a result, the Congress, backpedaling because they knew what was going on, but they were caught with their hands in the cookie jar in the intelligence committees, enacted new legislation called the USA Freedom Act, which in theory keeps the telephonic information, the metadata, out of the hands of the government until there is a warrant, until there's probable cause that someone's committing a crime or collaborating with terrorists. This was a major victory. But along the way, there was an official named James Clapper, Director of National Intelligence, who lied under oath to Congress, because at one point he was asked point blank, is the NSA surveying the metadata of millions of Americans? And he lied, he perjured himself. But nothing ever happened to him, because as we've seen, there's a dual system of justice in the US. The rich and the powerful go off scot-free, but it's the middle level and little guy, particularly in government, that gets burned sometimes. Well, the roosters have come home for James Clapper, because after all this occurred, we began to represent a whistleblower by the name of Dennis Montgomery. He was an NSA and CIA contractor, and in fact he had been working with James Clapper and working with John Brennan, who's now director of the CIA, and working with General Keith Alexander, who had been director of the National Security Agency, the NSA. And he revealed that in fact these agencies had been surveying, harvesting information about federal judges, about prominent businessmen that were involved in TARP, the bailout, and everybody that's prominent in this country. They even got stuff about me at the time. Now, I'd never seen anything that Dennis Montgomery had, because some of it may be classified. I didn't want to. I'm not Clinton's lawyers. We play it straight. I'm a former Justice Department prosecutor. But we brought that information forward through a federal judge, Royce Lambert, to the director of the FBI, James Comey. And under his tutelage, under his direction, through General Counsel James Baker, the FBI began to investigate what Dennis Montgomery had. And we got Dennis Montgomery immunity, both to produce documents and to testify as to what had been going on. And in fact, he brought forward tens of hard drives with 600 million pages of documents. And he brought forth information about what was going on. And he collaborated with FBI special agents, very professional people, under oath. And it's my feeling, because this morning there was a surprise announcement that James Clapper had resigned, this terrible individual who has been violating the constitutional rights of American citizens, resigned. And I don't think this was just by accident. I think this was the result of years of chopping at this tree with the NSA, who had been violating the constitutional rights of all Americans, nearly hundreds of millions of them, holding the sword of Damocles over their head in fear that if they spoke out, if they challenged the government, they could have their lives destroyed with confidential dirt that the NSA and CIA was digging up, or anything else that they could use, truthfully or untruthfully. Good riddance that Clapper is now going to be gone. But I believe that it was likely the result of our lawsuits against the NSA, and I have them pending against the CIA as well. It was likely the result of the FBI investigating what Dennis Montgomery had provided and confirming that Clapper was at the center of this illegal, unconstitutional activity. Even the Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court, John Roberts, was harvested by these intelligence agencies. Does this help explain some of his rather bizarre, if not aberrant, majority opinions in the last few years involving Obamacare, involving gay rights, or whatever the case may be? It may. We don't know. And while I don't know what Dennis Montgomery gave to the FBI, I've never looked at it, didn't want to look at it, it may very well be that this whistleblower, more important than Edward Snowden, who came forward to reveal this, marked the end of James Clapper. And it's also interesting that, of course, that as President-elect Trump comes into office, that Clapper is likely forced to resign, because you would not want anybody in that position that would have his kind of power, that is loyal to prior administrations, most particularly Barack Hussein Obama and the Secretary of State Hillary Clinton at the time. You want your own people in there, because this is a situation which is intolerable. You wouldn't want to get into a situation where the President of the United States, in this case Trump, could be attempted to be coerced and blackmailed by intelligence agencies. There's a broader story here, is that the powers to be in this government are probably not even the President of the United States, but when intelligence agencies like the NSA and CIA have the ability to get into everything that you have, including your underwear, they are the ones who are truly in control. Now, they're used by people like President Obama and others to effect what they want to get, and they work together. But there's actually a higher force in this country. And that's the real story here. But today, Clapper is gone. Thank God he's gone. It was a little bit like chopping a tree. You know, we had to keep working to get rid of this guy. Like we did, myself going back to the 1990s with Hillary and Bill Clinton. You know, it doesn't happen all at once, and they're not completely gone. We have to make sure that legally they stay down and that they're dead and buried in a court of law so they can't rise again. But these are the evil forces that are in control of our government. And we're doing everything we can at Freedom Watch to bring about honest government, ethical government, government for and by the people, under our Declaration of Independence as conceived by our founding fathers and our Constitution. And thank God we're getting results, and we see that. Hillary Clinton is gone for now. She may be back. We have to make sure she doesn't get back legally. Clapper's gone. We have to make sure that the NSA and CIA represent the American people and not their own proper interests. So you, the American people, we want to thank you for your support. We need your support. Please go to www.freedomwatchusa.org. Please contribute to our cause, because we're up against some very powerful forces. God bless America. God save America. And may you and your loved ones live in a peaceful, free nation under God. Thank you.